everyone. This is our State Workforce Development Board General Session. Today is Thursday, February 16th. Call the meeting to order. I'll turn this over to Nia King, our State Board Manager, for roll call.
Do we have Ames Barnett on?
Present.
Thank you. Bart Gobeil. Governor Brian Kemp. Buddy Harden.
Here.
Candace Brose. Kiana Good.
Present.
Chris Tobiasen.
Present.
Chris Wells. Del Keith.
Here.
Emily Davidson. Evelyn Olenek.
Present.
Thank you. Frank Ginn. Greg Dozier. James Wilburn.
Present.
Thank you. Gerald Mitchell. Joe Yarborough. Karen Vieira.
Present.
Kelly Brownlow.
Present.
Thank you. Kevin Jackson Jr. Lisa Winton.
Here.
Logan Leslie. Margaret Lammers Conrad. Mike Long. Trish Roth.
Here.
Randy Beal.
Present.
Thank you. Trey Taylor. Sam Dasher.
Present.
Thank you. Sam McCurchin.
Present.
Thank you. Stuart Countess.
Present.
Thank you. Susan Andrews.
Present.
Thank you. Teresa Fisher. We have one addition, Bill Hightower. Off by one. Is there anyone else that I missed? Well, as of right now, we are off by one.
You got more help.
Okay. Karen?
Yes, Nia.
Okay. So considering we're off, I'm sorry.
I was going to say I could go into the business meeting announcements and come back to you and see if we have one more that might have joined.
Yes, thank you.
All right. So welcome to the meeting. We do appreciate everyone taking the time out of their day. We have quite a few agenda items to vote on, so hopefully we'll have that one additional person join us. There's a couple announcements, the business meeting announcements. Karen Kirchner will share some staff changes when she gets to her announcement later on in the agenda. Also would like to mention that the new State Workforce Development Board members who were recently appointed by the governor's office are Lisa Winton. Welcome, Lisa. I heard you on the phone. Bill Hightower and Margaret Lammers Conrad. So welcome to the three new members. Appreciate your participation in joining this board. We do have the member reappointments listed in your meeting packet. If there's any questions or anything, that is in the meeting packet, so please take a look at that. And Nia, I'm going to go back to you to see if we have quorum.
No, not yet.
Let's go ahead and run through the business agenda, and at the end, if we get quorum, we can do a consent agenda.
All right, thank you, Kristen.
Thank you.
All right, so I think everyone has the agenda and the meeting minutes. Kristen, I believe we would hold for a vote on that.
Yes, ma'am. We can just present.
Okay, so we'll move over to the committee reports. The Adult and Dislocated Workers Committee did meet on February 8th at 2 p.m. We did not have quorum. We had some of our committee members were sick and had conflicting, actually quite a few board meetings that day. So we have several action items to share. We have the participant eligibility, which was expanded. Rosani Rios is going to go over that. She's also going to go over the low income individuals participation eligibility. Both of these are 3.2.5. And then she will cover the supportive employment, supportive services for co-enrolled individuals. So Rosani Rios, let me turn this over to you to cover the 3 action items.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm gonna stand up over here. So, we have in a very tiny little here,
It's in your packet.
our first policy item, policy 3.2.5, adult and dislocated worker participant eligibility, and we are adding language to our policy to define what active service means. And this guidance comes straight from the federal guidance on TIGO 1009, and basically explains that in order for our local area to serve a member of the National Guard or Reserve, that person has to be activated by the federal government. It cannot be like a state governor activation in order for them to receive services. Any questions on that? That clarifies some of the questions that we had on our last board meeting by Commissioner Ross.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The second policy change or proposed policy change that we have here, it's under the same policy 3.2.5, adult and dislocated worker participant eligibility. And this is an exciting change. We're expanding the state income-based programs that we classified under our policy as state income-based programs. We have added 9 programs, and why is this important? This is important because the individuals receiving services under these programs, social service programs, they are classified as low income per our regulations. And there's certain individuals that they need to be low income in order to be eligible for WIOA services, especially youth. All of our in-school youth and some of our out-of-school youth, they have to be low income at a certain point. Also for adults, this is relevant because low income is one of the criteria that allows them to be as part of the priority of service determination. And also it is relevant for adult and DW because being low income also enhance an individual's chances to receive training services. So adding these 9 programs to our policy provides the local area with a flexibility to increase their eligibility for participants, and also makes that determination, low income determination, easier, right? So that's why it's exciting. And the next policy item that we have here. It's policy 3.4.4, supported services. And we have added a new section that talks about supported services for co-enrolled individuals. And this section just explains that an individual receiving services that through us that is also co-enrolled in a different program, we can provide supported services to that individual, even though the other program might be paying for the primary service, like the individualized career service. It's just providing guidance, allowing our local staff the opportunity to break funding whenever that's the case and that's appropriate, and also provides them with guidance as to how to document that. If we have a participant and the TCSG Foundation is paying for the tuition and books and fees for the training, that it's okay for us to go in and co-enroll that participant and just pay for transportation or childcare, right? To extend our dollars, and also explained the LWDAs how to document that in our system. So that's the new addition. Also exciting, right? Any questions? Hearing none, then I am going to step aside. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosani, and appreciate all the work in expanding the policy for eligibility and all the work that you've done on these 3 action items. I don't think there were any questions, so we're going to move over to Brandon Ona, our director, on the Registered Apprentice Program, the proposed policy updates, and some eligibility review. So Brandon, if you'd like to take that.
Yes, thank you, Chairwoman. And I have a paper, I'll use the podium. The policy that you all have in your packets is to update the Registered Apprenticeship Program portion of our ETPL eligible training provider list policy. This policy was first adopted right at the authorization of WIOA, and so since that time, it was very clear that we needed to make some updates, as well as we've gotten more information from USDOL on how to actually implement the Registered Apprenticeship Program portions of WIOA. That coupled with, as you all know, historic investments from the state into registered apprenticeships has led to quite an uptick in activity with registered apprenticeships. And one of the things tying into Rosani's previous presentation was we really are emphasizing co-enrollments with these programs. So if we do create a registered apprenticeship program, enrolling as many WIOA eligible individuals as possible, providing them with supportive services, as well as some of the other supports that are available through Title I that may not be available through some of our regular apprenticeship funding or other funding sources that can support an apprenticeship. So what this policy does is it very much updates and clarifies the language that we did have. It touches on the program eligibility. A lot of this, as you will see, is direct requirements from the U.S. Department of Labor. And then we go into some requirements that, as a state, we're putting on registered apprenticeships to make sure that they're high quality. If we're supporting apprenticeship programs through WIOA funds, that these are high quality apprenticeships, that they lead to sustainable jobs and sustainable wages, as well as an in-demand career path for apprentices that are in these programs. We also touch on some of the more, administrative requirements, how we document apprenticeships within the case files for a WIOA participant. We touch on performance, and then lastly, we significantly clarify the program removal mechanisms, which is something that we've been able to better understand over the past couple of years. With that, I'll turn it over to questions. Are there any questions about policy? Yes.
So I'm so new, so
Yeah.
this, so on the registered apprenticeship program, the co-enrollment, which I think is great, are you guys pulling any of the instructors into the conversations around that?
That's a really good question. So the part that WIOA would most likely support is not necessarily the curriculum or the implementation of or the training provider piece or the training piece. It would mostly support the funding of the training portion. And so the actual development of the program would be through we would call the related technical instruction provider. And so that case, it could be a technical college, it could be a training provider, and then that is where that instructor piece would come into play.
In the past, it's in the past. So some of the barriers for the co-enrollment and the apprenticeship has been timing of the educational piece.
Yeah.
And the work schedule of where they would be working, like not being able to coincide those two.
Yes, and I know that's an issue that on the team we've discussed quite a bit. One of the solutions that we've, and this is absent of, or this is aside from this particular policy that we've found, is funding apprenticeship programs through the economic development side of the colleges, or through the parts of the of training delivery that's not as rigid in structure. The good news is with this policy, one of the things that WIOA funds can support is funding for those types of programs where something like the Hope Career Grant could not. This policy in particular would enable more local areas to help fund some of those programs, again, to provide more flexibility, because that's been a I wouldn't call it a barrier, but it's an obstacle to how we enroll apprentices, or how we even get companies on board with apprenticeships.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, of course. Any other questions? All right, hearing none, I'll turn it over to you, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you. And in the committee, one of the things that we did talk about was looking at the list of, for the next meeting, having just a review of the list statewide of the high demand career list. So we haven't seen that in a little while. So Brendan is going to pull that together for us. And obviously we had talked about this is by local region as well. So we will really just look at the state high demand career list. Thank you, Brandon. And Nia, just move on. Before we move on, I'm just confirming that we do not have quorum at this time.
We do now, yes. Chris Wells was able to join.
Okay, terrific. So I think we can approve these all. I'll call for a vote to approve the action items presented on these policy changes. Do I need to go back and do this separately, or can we do this?
Can we start with the agenda
Yes, ma'am.
and
Yes,
the
we
meeting
can
minutes
go all the way
first?
back. Yes, we sure can. So let me ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
Evelyn Olenek, motion to approve.
Second. Thank you.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Like sign for opposed? The agenda has been approved. Moving to the meeting minutes, did everyone get the meeting minutes? All right, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the meeting minutes from October 24th, 2022.
Dale is first.
I'll second.
Chris is second. Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Like sign for opposed? Hearing none, the meeting minutes are also approved. All right, so we have under the Adult and Dislocated Workers Committee, and thank you for that, we have 4 action items. 3.2.5, 3.4.4, 4.4.5. I would like to ask for a motion to approve as a group these 4 amendments.
Motion to approve.
Kelly Brown Love
Thank you.
and Buddy is second.
Thank you. Any questions before we go to vote on that? Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Like sign for opposed. And the motion passes, the vote passes. Thank you for all the work on that, team. I'm going to move to the Youth Committee. Chairwoman Dr. Susan Andrews, as our Vice Chairman of the Harris County Board of Commissioners, will provide a brief update. Thank you. Dr. You're on mute, Dr. Andrews.
Oh, yeah. Computer does
You hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The youth meeting met on February the 7th,
Dr.
2023.
Andrews?
Yes,
Dr. Andrews, did you call in and are you using a computer as well?
I'm using a computer. I did not call in.
She should turn off her speaker then, so it's not picking up her mic.
Okay.
Turn off.
Turn off your speaker. Do you have additional
That's
speaker?
You now?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can hear you.
Is it going now?
No.
Okay.
Oh.
I will start over. I apologize for not being there in person today. I hate not doing that. So please forgive me for that. The youth committee met on February the 7th, 2023. We did have a quorum. We heard an update from Carly Hughley, who is the manager for Eckerd Connects Paxson. And Ms. Hughley provided an overview of the services that Eckerd Connects Paxson provides for youth as well as adults and dislocated workers in Area 17. She provided background on the Job Corps program and explained how Job Corps serves youth ages 16 to 24 free of charge. Since 2021, Eckerd Youth Services and Turner Job Corps have enrolled 24 participants for services. On February the 9th, they hosted a job fair, which is their first community partner event. And I haven't heard from that, and I'm hoping there was a great turnout. Ms. Hughley presented success stories about two participants who acquired their CNAs and how well they are doing with their Job Corps partnerships. And she explained how the partnership with Job Corps allows for participants to gain stackable credentials in industries such as healthcare, hospitality, and construction to make them more employable. Ellie Napolitano presented on Youth Build and Job Corps, and she explained how these programs serve out-of-school youth and how they each help youth receive training, education, and employment. We did have some policies. Rosani Rios assisted us on the staff side with these policies, and we appreciate her work on doing that. The first is 3.2.6, youth participant eligibility. This clarifies the language regarding out-of-school youth who are basic skills deficient to more closely with the U.S. Department of Labor guidance. The second change addresses low-income status for youth participants. New proposed language increases the number of programs classified as state income-based programs in Georgia. Youth receiving benefits from these state programs will be considered low income per our WIOA regulations also. And this change significantly increases the access of youth who are required to be low income in order to receive Title I services, and also makes the low income determination process easier for the LWA staff. The other policy, 3.4.4, is the one that you just heard on supportive services. And this allows for participants co-enrolled in partner agencies to receive those supportive services through WIOA, things like transportation, books, tuition, tools, as long as individualized career services they are receiving from the partner agencies are outlined in their individual service strategy. And the need for such services is documented in their case file. So I'd like to ask Rosani if we need to vote on 3.4.4 again, since we just voted on that in the other committee.
I think we need to, because there's one section that we updated for adult and dislocated worker, and there's a different section in our policy manual that we added information as well under the youth section. So
Okay, these two policies, 3.2.6 and 3.4.4 come to you as a recommendation from the Youth Committee and the Executive Committee. And Madam Chairman, I will turn it back to you for a vote.
Thank you. Are there any questions on the three policies that Dr. Anders just covered?
Can I get clarification, please? I'm sorry, I'm having a really hard time hearing. And since I wasn't on committee, can I get clarification on why the purpose of the change?
Yes. So,
Rastani, since you were there in the room, I'd like for you to answer those questions, please.
yes, the first policy change is just updating our language to align that youth eligibility criteria with USDOL interpretation of that criteria. So for a youth for an out-of-school youth who has only as a barrier, the only barrier that out-of-school youth has is being basic skills deficient. When we have youth coming to our doors that are basic skills deficient, that's the only barrier that they have, and they have a high school diploma. In that particular instance, right, when the only barrier is being basic skills deficient with a high school diploma, they also have to be low income. And there's only 2 instances for out-of-school youth in which by law we're requiring for them to be low income, and this is one of the instances in which they're required to be low income. And the way that we had worded these criteria before was a little bit confusing, so we reworded it for it to be clearer, easier to interpret. That's what that first change was about.
Okay, so the changes just align with the DOL and it's just clearer.
It's just so it's easier for the local LWDAs to interpret. That's basically what it is. And the other policy change, the next one. The next one is the same change. We're adding 9 programs as state income-based programs. The difference is that as we added the option for adults and dislocated workers, we had to add the same information for the youth programming. So we're aligning the programs for both youth and adult and DW, but it's exactly the same information. And the last one for the co-enrolled participants that also impact youth as well as adult and dislocated workers. So that's why we presented that for the youth committee.
Thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the question. Are there any other questions? All right, hearing none, I am going to call for a vote. Do we have a
Ames
motion?
Barnett, I'll make a motion.
Thank you, sir.
I'll second. Kelly Brownlow, second.
All right, we have a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Like sign for opposed. The vote passes. All right, at this time, I'd like to turn it over to the Finance and Performance Committee, our co-chairman, Dr. James Wilburn, Director of Military Academy Programs.
Well, good morning, everyone. Sorry I can't be there in person. This will be a fairly short brief. The Finance and Performance Accountability Committee, we were scheduled to meet on Tuesday, February 7th at 1:15. However, there were some last-minute changes, largely on my part, that did not allow for us to meet. Fortunately, we had no action items to bring to the committee. So we're looking forward to moving to our next committee and catching up on any needed business. And Madam Chairman, that is all we have for the Finance and Performance Accountability.
Thank you, Dr. Wilburn. I'm going to move over to the Executive Committee, and we do have one item that's an action item on here. The 2023 fourth quarter meeting date is proposed as Monday, October 23rd, 2023. And I'd like to ask for an approval of that date.
Ames Barnett, I make a motion to approve, Chairman.
Thank you, Ames.
And Dell, second.
Thank you, Mr. Keith. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Like sign for opposed. The motion carries. Monday, October 23rd, if everyone wants to put that on their calendars, is our new date for the fourth quarter. We do have a couple of action items for the executive committee. Kristen Larhoven is going to talk about some bylaw changes. Let me turn it over to Kristen.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. This is a very easy bylaw change. We have been working with the Governor's Office of Executive Appointments to get all of you guys reappointed. When we were working through the appointment of the chair and the vice chair, they essentially act specifically off code sections. And so in our code section, it talks about the governor appointing the chair, but it doesn't specify that the governor will appoint the vice chair. And our bylaws do say that the governor will appoint the vice chair. In their opinion, the state code section supersedes our bylaws section. So we are just changing the bylaws to give the authority to appoint the vice chair to our chair. So when we have a new chair appointed, that individual will be able to appoint a vice chair for us. I also, because we have some new members, want to draw everyone's attention to the conflict of interest section. It's just a good time to reread that, get yourself familiar with it. For our new members, there's a signature page on the very back. If you could sign that, if you're here in person, and just hand it to Mia. If you're online, if you could sign it and email it to Mia. We just need new copies of that for everyone who's a new appointee. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with conflicts of interest. We just want to be able to declare them and take the necessary steps that we need to neutralize them. So if you ever have any questions about whether you or your organization would have a conflict with any type of vote, please ask us. We're happy to work through that with you. The way that the law is set up, this board is full of interested parties. It's full of programs that we support. It's full of employers that have work-based learning programs with us. So it is designed in some way to have conflicts. Again, those aren't necessarily a bad thing. We just need to declare them and recuse from certain votes. So let me know if you ever have any questions and we'll work through that with you. Do you have any questions about the bylaws in general? Okay, thank you. Madam Chairwoman, if you don't mind, we call for a vote.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Kristen, for the presentation and the explanation. And again, Kristen's available to anyone with questions. At this time, I'd ask to call for a vote, please. You can make a motion.
A second.
So was it Lisa and Trish? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Like sign for opposed? Hearing none, the SWDB bylaws that Kristen just shared with us have passed. I would like to move on to action item 5.3, the National Dislocated Worker Grants, and Brandon Ona, our director, will present that.
All right, thank you, Madam Chairwoman. And I have back-to-back policies here. So to start out, this is something we've talked about in previous board meetings. The state has been successful on a number of occasions for securing our dislocated worker grants, our national dislocated worker grants. And those are grants to respond to natural disasters or large layoffs that are happening within the state. Most recently, we received the Quest DWG, or Dislocated Worker Grant. And so with that, as we were preparing to bring that grant online, to kind of give a little bit of an overview, it's a $15 million grant that is going to be targeted towards encouraging individuals, not just encouraging, but providing resources to get individuals into the labor force and hired in some of our in-demand career paths that we have within the state. And so a part of that was, part of bringing that grant online was very much related to releasing updated guidance for our local areas that will be implementing these funds and these programs, as well as making sure that at a state level, we have the infrastructure to actually implement this as well. And so with that being said, we noticed in this process that we had not adopted a statewide policy for dislocated worker grants. And the main reason behind that was usually prior to the pandemic, we had, these grants on a handful of occasions. A lot of the time it was very small and isolated to a handful of local areas. So there really wasn't a need for a statewide policy. Now we're at the point where we do need a statewide policy, and so that's what we're proposing before you all today. To give a little bit of an overview on this policy, it really is focused on the administration of DWGs that are awarded to the states and the administration of the DWGs by the local workforce development areas. We touch on a number of things which it shouldn't be anything new to this group because, again, a lot of this is codifying what we already have in guidance. We're just putting into state policy. But it touches on how we administer the funding. It touches on how we administer the funding and then the grants in terms of modifications and monitoring. And one thing it does put in here, which I'm sure our local area partners will be very excited about, is it does codify the expanded eligibility that USDOL has encouraged states to adopt with these particular grants. So in the case of the COVID-19 dislocated worker grants, it has allowed us to serve basically anyone that has been impacted adversely by the COVID-19 pandemic. And then with this, codifying this here will allow us to adopt the same type of expanded eligibility for whatever future disaster, hopefully there are none, but future disasters that will happen in the coming years. I can touch on questions if there's any questions about the expanded eligibility. We also touch on allowable grant activities. As you all know, these grants are largely to support two types of activities, employment and training, so that's training programs, as well as temporary employment. And so temporary employment, we don't see a lot of this nowadays, but in light of a tornado or a hurricane occurring, temporary employment allows us to get people jobs quickly and paychecks into their households. In a lot of those temporary employment jobs are humanitarian in nature, on public lands, et cetera. But with the COVID-19 pandemic and the tight labor market, as you can probably understand, there wasn't a whole lot of temporary employment that was happening in the later parts of that grant. We touch on performance, and I think that's it with this particular grant. I'll open it up for questions. Any questions? All right. Hearing none, I'll turn it over to you, Madam Chairwoman. Do we want to batch?
Yeah, we can put them together.
Okay.
She's talking, but she's
Oh, Karen, you're muted.
So sorry, I was suggesting that we go over 5.15 and ask for a motion to approve both together.
That works for me. So the second policy before you is policy 5.1.5. Finance and Grants Administration. It's specifically related to a rapid response program. So we are going to do a full rapid response presentation in an upcoming board meeting. We didn't have time today, but as most of you know, TCSG, specifically the Office of Workforce Development, has taken on the rapid response program for the state of Georgia, which was previously administered by the Georgia Department of Labor. That program is largely focused on assisting businesses at their most vulnerable points. So assisting businesses that are at risk or are laying off or permanently closing. But with that, one thing that the team is really focusing on is layoff aversion and getting ahead of that as much as possible, providing businesses with training programs and other resources to meet their workforce needs to prevent any layoffs, as you all know, as business leaders. With that being said, one of the more immediate policies that we had to update with this program coming back over to OWD is our financial administration of this program. So this is as expected with changing the structure in which we administer these services. At a high level, this combines two previous sections, again, so it's more streamlined for our practitioners and our stakeholders to understand how this program is administered. As you can see at the top, we do, again, incorporate some of the required elements per U.S. Department of Labor, such as the 25% dedication of funds, of dislocated worker funding for rapid response services and administration. As you'll see in the next section, we go over in detail how we send this funding out to our local workforce development areas. And we do it through a number of mechanisms, most notably through our annual allotments that will provide our local workforce development areas. And we did release guidance on that at the right ahead of the new year. So I think in mid-December. We also touch on the funding for disaster events. So one thing that this funding source can do is when, let's say, a tornado, God forbid, happens, we're able to make a grant award to support the training needs immediately. And then if we do need to get an MDWG that we were just talking about, we can apply, but at least we'll have some funding in the meantime to support participants. And again, the reason for that is because if there is an influx of participants that are coming or that will need to be served, that isn't really taken into account, obviously, in the annual formula funds that they're receiving. So that's supplemental funding that we're able to send out to them will cover the cost of training or whatever services that need to be delivered. And then lastly, we touch on the financial monitoring, which is a part of administering these funds. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, Dr. Good.
For disaster events, is there a specified definition, or are we just going to have a common sense definition?
So the definition is federally declared a disaster event. So that could be, I think all of them have to be technically through FEMA, but sometimes there is a little bit of delay. So as long as the president declares a disaster, then that would activate the funds.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
You might have mentioned it and I might have missed it, but if you're reserving up to 25% of the funds, at what point in time would it be determined that they might not be needed for that and then offered out to be used rather than just holding back?
That's a very good question.
Yeah, I can answer that. So we typically do that in the May meeting. So literally the next meeting, we would kind of look at our budget and determine, based on our obligations, current staffing levels, projected number of future layoffs, what that percentage would need to be. For instance, for this last year, we took 18%. We didn't take 25%. We're probably looking to take even a little less this year. Our existing dislocated worker funds can also be used for rapid response purposes. So even if you take less funds, you can go back and utilize other funds for those purposes. So it's something that kind of behooves you to undershoot as opposed to overshoot. But yeah, we take a look at that budget every year.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Hearing none, I'll turn it over to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you to you and the team for the clarification on the procedures and on the guidance. Appreciate that. So at this time, I'd like to ask for a motion covering 5.3 National Dislocated Worker Grant and 5.1.5 the Finance and Grant Administration. So if we could have a motion, please.
I'll make a motion.
Second. Chris Tobiasen and Buddy Harden.
Thank you both. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Like sign for opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to our TCSG Commissioner, Greg Dozier, for his report.
Madam Chair, this is Karen Kirchler, Deputy Commissioner. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Dozier's unable to be with us today. He actually is meeting with the governor this morning, and so unfortunately he's unable to join, but he did want me to certainly convey a welcome to our new board members. We're really happy to bring some folks aboard. Lisa Witten previously served on the TCSG State Board, so she's an old friend and supporter of our system as a whole. Bill Hightower, I have known Bill for a lot of years. He was a board member at West Georgia Tech, where I worked for many years, and so happy to have Bill joining us as well. And just very grateful for the participation of all of you all here, and also Margaret Lammers Conrad, who I have yet to meet, but I'm looking forward to that opportunity. Yeah, unfortunately, Commissioner is not able to join us today. So with your permission, Madam Chair, I'm going to move forward with my presentation. Is that all right?
Yes, please do. Thank you, Karen.
Alrighty. So a couple of things. One, we finished up our quarterly federal reporting to USDOL this week. And that was a very large lift, and I have to credit Damon's team, Damon Weller. So we were also asked to provide an assist to our partners at Georgia Department of Labor as they're going through, we're all going through this transition together. And so Damon's team did a great job, and remarkably, we met all of our federal reporting deadlines, so kudos to them. I also need to welcome, we have Rob LeBeau from the Atlanta Regional Commission. He is the local workforce area director, and we have Latanya Goodwin from East Central, and so we appreciate their participation here today. And so for any of our board members, if you've not met them, these are the folks in the local areas kind of doing the boots on the ground work for us. So, okay, so today I just wanted to, aside from kind of those, housekeeping things, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the transition of Wagner Pfizer Services, Employment Services, and the Jobs for Veterans State Grant to TCSG. So next slide, Mia. Thank you. So what has actually transitioned? So Wagner Pfizer Employment Services, when we talk about that, this is a program that provides job seekers with career services, including labor exchange services, job search assistance, workforce information, referrals to employers, you name it. If you are eligible to work in the state of Georgia, you can go into an American Job Center and receive assistance in finding a job. So that's a big chunk of the services that have moved over. Through Wagner Pfizer, we'll be administering what's called the state's labor exchange system. So think of Monster or Indeed or Career Builder, a virtual platform in which employers can list jobs and job seekers can create profiles. We'll have our own system, a state labor exchange system. Employ Georgia, which is a GDOL system, is currently in place as the state's labor exchange system. We're maintaining that system until we can transition to a new system that will be compatible with our existing Title I case management system. So as you recall, Wagner Pfizer Services, part of the WIOA Total Act, which has 4 titles to it, Title I being workforce, what we have historically done, Title II being adult ed, our core partners here, Title III is Wagner Pfizer. So I just lost my train of thought. But through Title III, so we'll have Title I, we'll have Title III. Through Title I, we have a case management system that runs on a platform provided by Geographic Solutions. So with the addition of this implementation of the new labor exchange system, it will run on the same platform, Geographic Solutions. So we expect that this will create some good efficiencies and some good resources for our local areas. And we hope that it'll be have some robust tools and really be a help to our job seekers and our employers throughout the state. Next slide, Mia. So one of the components, this is just an FYI, we're learning so much as this is transitioned over. Things I did not know about, but I'm learning a lot about farm worker services. So actually under Wagner Pfizer, there's a migrant and seasonal farm worker program. So the 20 states with the highest estimated year-round migrant and seasonal farm worker activity, and we all know Georgia's big agriculture state, right? We must provide full-time year-round outreach to these individuals who are engaged in this workforce, right? And those sorts of activities and duties include meeting with individuals who are engaged in this work at their workplace, where they live, where they gather, to inform them of their rights, how to access services, what services are available to them within their community, And also to ensure that they're aware of how to file a complaint if they feel as though they're being treated unjustly in some respect. So we have a role that's called the State Monitor Advocate, who works in that capacity. We have outreach workers now, a migrant seasonal farm worker manager. So it's a really interesting program. I'm excited to learn more about it, and that's another component of what we're doing through Wagner Pfizer. Next slide. Another component of Wagner Pfizer, the team that we brought over from Georgia Department of Labor, the Customized Recruitment and Business Services team. And this team has really focused on providing outreach to employers to match job seekers with employers and to really assist employers who are struggling to find workers. I know that's all employers right now. So, but customized recruitment has also been utilized as an incentive package to entice large employers to come to the state. And so the way that works is basically an employer like Hyundai, who's been, customized recruitment was offered to them as an enticement, an entitlement, whatever, to get them to come to the state. This team works specifically with Hyundai to market their job postings, to screen applicants, to refer applicants, and to just really work hard to help them fill their employment needs. That's a big bonus to a large company who might normally have to engage with a staffing service or something like that. Another component of what we brought over is not Wagner Pfizer. It's called Jobs for Veterans State Grant. And this includes individuals who are specifically doing outreach to serve disabled veterans population and also to reach employers who are looking to hire veterans. So there's two primary staff roles, one that works with the vet population and one that does constant outreach to business to try and promote that opportunity. And in terms of the group that's promoting that opportunity to business and industry, there's a lot of overlap in terms of the work that they do relative to the business services team. They're kind of conjointly serving the business community because frankly, what employer isn't interested in hiring veterans and what employer isn't interested in hearing about all of the services that can be offered to them in terms of recruitment and outreach. So that's another component that's come over. Next slide. So Brandon mentioned that Rapid Response has come back to TCSG. We had contracted out with the Georgia Department of Labor to perform Rapid Response services. And as he mentioned, this is an activity to help businesses avert layoffs and closures or to serve the employees who are impacted by layoffs and closures. And, I just want to say, we've done a great job of ramping up this team very quickly and creating a really collaborative model that communicates with the local workforce areas, with the colleges to inform the communities and relevant partners of an impending layoff or a closure so that individuals who might need any services, and also communicating and collaborating with Georgia Department of Labor so that individuals who want to register for unemployment insurance, individuals who might be interested in retraining can get services through the local workforce area and or the colleges. So I'm really excited about the opportunities that are being created through Rapid Response. Sadly, I'm less excited, but we're seeing a lot more of what are called WARN notices. What does WARN stand for? Worker adjust. Yeah, I was gonna say worker adjustment and retraining notification. So any company that's going to experience a layoff or a closure of a significant size has to file a WARN notice. So we get that information, and then that group does the outreach to the companies to try and engage them to provide services to the employees. We're seeing a lot more of that, but hopefully, ideally, through good coordination between all of these different players, we can place those individuals into existing job opportunities pretty quickly. And I think we just had that experience with, or we saw that experience when Georgia Department of Labor was still operating rapid response, and it was
Northwest, so there's two examples actually. In Northwest Georgia with Gildan, closed operations there, major company. We just, I don't know if she's on the call, Lisa Lambert, the director, informed us last week or the week before last week. Every single individual that was impacted by that has found a permanent job. And with the exception of the folks that got really nice severance packages and decided to travel the world, so good on them. And then there was another example in Gwinnett County, and this was with Partnership Gwinnett. There was a shoe manufacturer that lost a contract and had to lay off a significant number of people. All of those, well, most of those individuals we suspect were able to obtain jobs.
Yeah, so doing good work there. Next slide. Did you have a question?
Well, no, I just wanted to comment and thank you guys because I know Sarah and you know, it was a lot of help ramping up for that contract, and so she took it all to heart. So the help that was given to her and knowing that her employees, you know, that she had just hired had new places was tremendous to her and to the betterment of the whole company. So thank you.
Yeah, and I'll pass that on to the team that was instrumental in that, in helping that company.
Next slide, please, Lena. Oh, and we do have state staff that are placed statewide that are kind of regional rapid response coordinators, and they work to support the local areas and convene partners when events happen within their region. And we have a group based here at the state office. So just in general, we've onboarded about 160 individuals. This includes career center staff and the business services, customized recruitment team, our leadership team, and also some individuals on our IT teams, the data information team, and we're still recruiting for additional staff, support staff. We have hired the HR business partner because as you can imagine, this growth is pretty significant, and Workforce has been keeping HR pretty busy. And so we are going to have a dedicated HR business partner who will help coordinate our hiring and any issues that any of our team members have. They'll have a designated person to go to in HR. We're getting IT field techs out around the state so they can support our Career Center field staff. Looking for some administrative services support. And I think we're going to need to expand our communications team because it currently consists of the two remarkable individuals sitting in the back, Tyler and Andrea, who do a great job, but we have loaded a considerable amount of work onto them. So next slide. Okay, just to kind of give you an overview, this is our new org structure, and I want to introduce you. I could interview him, but I don't think he would appreciate it. I want to introduce you to Josh McCoon. Josh has served as TCSG's chief legal counsel, and he is now also our chief workforce officer. Josh, so he's my boss, and I'm grateful to have Josh in this role. He has really kind of led TCSG's transition of Wagner Pizer Services over from GDOL and has just really embraced Workforce. Last week, we had the good opportunity to go to the National Governors Association Winter Workforce Development Symposium, and Josh raised his hand and wanted to go, and that was like, oh, thanks, man. You want to learn about this. So really, really happy to have Josh in this role. And then, as you can see, we now have, we have 3 roles that will be executive directors. We have yet to hire an executive director for our employment services, but David Weller is now executive director of data and information. And part of the reason for this is that our reporting and data needs have expanded so dramatically that we've really had to increase that shop. And they're not just Title I needs, they're Title III needs. So we now have a combined data shop that serves both titles and will handle all of that reporting and the data requests and so forth. So we're really happy to have him in that role. And thank goodness we still have our OWD team in place, Kristen, and our directors and managers and so forth. So it's been an exciting time. Will you go to the next slide, please, Nia? So this is kind of what it's going to look like when everything is fleshed out on the Title III and JVSG side. And you'll get this in a presentation. I know it's tiny and you're all squinting right now, but ultimately there'll be an executive director. There will be 4 directors. We currently have 2 in place. We have Rhonda Waite, who is our Director of Policy Monitoring and Training, and JJ Urban, who is the Director of Grants and Special Programs. So he's over the Migrant Seasonal Farm Worker Program, as well as the Jobs for Veterans State Grant Program. Very experienced in that program, experienced Career Center manager and so forth. We were lucky enough that both of these individuals came from Department of Labor and had a significant amount of experience behind them. With this transition, we've also incorporated the Jobs for Georgia Graduates program, which has 10 instructors around the state who are based in high schools who are providing support to high school students in terms of employability skills, readying them for the workforce. And these are at-risk students who haven't made up their mind, what they're going to do, kind of, are they going to drop out? Are they going to make it? And so these instructors provide really specialized support to these students to kind of help usher them through and to a next step. We also have, we've also inherited the Georgia Best program, which some of you may be familiar with, works with primarily our secondary programs, providing employability skills curriculum to schools that teachers can then administer, and then students who complete receive an employability skills certificate representing their completion of it. We're looking for a director of operations and customer service, and that individual will be overseeing kind of the field staff and what's happening at our sites and locations. And we'll have a number of regional operations managers operating through them. Our director of customized recruitment and business services was Linda Manis, still technically is Linda Manis. She came from Georgia Department of Labor, but she has since decided to retire. So we'll be losing her within the next couple of weeks. So we're going to have to look to fill that role as well. Once we're fully built out, that's what our org structure is intended to look like on that side. Next slide. So our next steps continue to hire. We have a lot of folks we still need to fill out. We were trying to figure out what our footprint needs to be relative to delivering employment services around the state. Should it just be in the career centers? Needs to be in the comprehensive one-stops? Can we be in other places? Can we work with partners? How best to deliver this program? We want to continue to work collaboratively with Department of Labor and State Properties Commission and the U.S. DOL, kind of to identify what facilities we might want to take on and where we might want to remain. So that's in a process of discovery right now. We're going to be rebranding employment services. It's been associated with Georgia Department of Labor, so we really want to distinguish it as a component of TCSG and WorkSource Georgia, right? WorkSource Georgia. And then, of course, building out the WorkSource Georgia labor exchange system, which Damon's going to tell you a little bit more about here in just a few minutes. Next slide, please. So our expected benefits in terms of bringing this over will be improved alignment of services along the spectrum. So as you see, we have 3 of the 4 titles of WIOA now operating through TCSG. So we're hoping that we'll have more streamlined coordination and partnership with our local workforce development areas for outreach to participants and recruitment of employers. And we are hoping that, we'll create more comprehensive recruitment opportunities on multiple fronts for employers to cultivate our talent pipelines throughout the state, right? So you figure we've got Title I, we've got Title II, we've got Title III, we've got access to people. We need to, and through the colleges, obviously. So if we can coordinate all of this effort and connect with employers, we're hoping we can have a big impact. Next slide. And these are our overall long-term goals. So to integrate and align all of our resources to maximize our efficiency and effectiveness. And we really want to see our labor exchange system be a robust and kind of go-to system for job seekers. We want to be the go-to solution for Georgia employers in finding talent to meet their workforce needs, and the first choice among job seekers when they're looking for work in Georgia. So we've got some work to do. But that's where we're at. This has been and continues to be a joint effort, and so I just have to acknowledge everybody. So thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
I mean, I just feel like I need to give like a round of applause because I remember when I came for a TCSG meeting and I can't even remember how many people were in the conference room that were getting onboarded that day. It was like some crazy number of people. And, you know, it's not even finding them and onboarding them, but it's training them. Like, yeah, I mean, you guys are doing a spectacular job. I think it was a great decision to combine these efforts. And I'm very optimistic as an employer.
Thank you. That's good. And this has been, certainly the lift for this has been, Josh, HR, IT, admin services, and then, this team over here, the folks we were able to bring over early from Georgia Department of Labor, JJ Irvin, Rhonda Wade, Joelle Dominic, I think we have Ben over there, Ben Cucciarelli. He came from GDOL as well. I mean, so it's definitely been kind of a very, very big group effort to make this work. So.
Well, thank you, Deputy Commissioner Kirschner, for sharing your vision, sharing, just the team makeup, the challenges. Also love to see the redeployment of individuals in the state to other companies. That recruitment retention is ongoing. I don't see it going away for the next year, even leveling out. So not only internally what you're doing with all the changes in the vision and the alignment, but also what you're doing in the state to help employers that are cutting, cost cutting, reducing staff, to help them get redeployed to other areas. So a lot of work, and I know you're probably shorthanded, as we can see on your org charts. So do not underestimate the work that's gone into this, and thank you for the report.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move over to the spotlight presentation. Before that, I was multitasking between this meeting, and I failed to mention that in the Adult and Dislocated Committee, we did have a WorkSource make and bid presentation by Tiffany Andrews, Howard Scott, Marcelo Bain, Tracy McIntyre on the Manufacturing Fundamentals Program. They shared with us the Friedenberg Performance Company and what they're doing. Their head of human services was present, and we had a nice presentation, so I was remiss in sharing that in my committee report. We do have a LWDA spotlight presentation by Sonia Grant, the Executive Director, President and CEO of CobWorks, on some new programs that they've put into place. So I would like to turn it over to Sonia at this time. Thank you.
So much, Karen. I appreciate that. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Thanks so much. Again, I'm the President and CEO of CobWorks and the Executive Director of WorkSource Cobb. We're in Region 4. Thank you guys so much for having me. It's really an honor to be able to share some of our innovative strategies. I think that at this point in time, it's over the last 3 years, we can all say that it's been truly an unprecedented time, especially in workforce. Can you advance the slide if you don't mind? Awesome. Thank you. More specifically, though, workforce has really changed the way we all do business. The pandemic has, I think in my mind, has just further exacerbated the inequities and the deficiencies in our economic and our education systems. And it just shows up every day in our ability to recruit talent. Employers are out there screaming, you know, where are the people? Where are the people? And I just constantly remind our employers and even my board and my staff that COVID's not the only reason that we're in the position that we're in today. You know, we've all known for more than 20 years that there's been a significant skills gap in this country. And our failure to address it in any significant way, you know, it's now come back to haunt us. Our employers were out there struggling to find skilled labor. And that's primarily because the talent pool has just run dry. Workers just don't have the requisite skills that employers need to secure the jobs that are available. So for us as a workforce agency, we just knew that it was time for us to pivot. We were like, we need to do something different. We have to begin to think outside the box. Next slide. Oh, we recognize that as the employers or we as a workforce agency, we can no longer just hang out our shingle and say, hey, we're hiring, hey, we have these programs. If we really wanted to get the talent that we needed and build talent pipelines, we had to be strategic, we had to be intentional, and we had to be willing to invest. We had to work on engaging the full workforce ecosystem. So in 2021, we launched our first cohort of 10 individuals in a new initiative called Power Up. And this program actually utilizes a braided funding strategy with public and private funding. And we did this in collaboration initially with Prime Power, who is an employer in the emergency power industry. And they were struggling to find talent. And they knew that their existing recruitment strategies just were not working. This particular program provides skills training and industry recognized credentials. It gave weekly stipends and work readiness skills upon employment completion. And I'm happy to say that we enrolled 10 and we graduated 9. 3 of those graduates were hired directly by Prime Power. 2 others were hired by solar companies, with the remaining 4 hired by various power companies, including Georgia Power. So with that project, we knew that we had proof of concept. Now, don't get me wrong, we had some lessons learned, of course, but we knew we were on to something, so we wanted to continue. Next slide. Since that time, we've graduated more than 25 people from Power Up. With our most recent graduation just held 2 weeks ago, this particular project was held in collaboration with the Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling Contractors Association. And we're really excited about this partnership because we found that we needed to customize this training model to better meet the employer's needs, but we also needed to meet the needs of our participants in a more robust way. This model included 16 weeks of work experience where youth between the ages of 18 to 24, they were working 4 days a week, earning $14 an hour. They were working with licensed plumbers as plumbing helpers. On Fridays, they participated in cohort academics and they utilized a curriculum that's actually been approved on the state eligible provider list as an industry recognized credential. They also received support services like support for transportation. They participate in soft skills workshops, financial literacy, and they also hear from industry speakers. Last week, we graduated 8 of our 10 participants, and all of them are currently working. 2 of them graduated receiving full apprenticeships with their plumbing employers. 1 received an HVAC apprenticeship. Another is participating with an apprenticeship in the Mechanical Trades Institute. And I can honestly say, I just could not be more proud. This model is certainly not possible without strong engagement from our employers. Next slide. This is just a few of our plumbing partners. We actually had far more employers than we have participants. So I only listed the 10 that we were currently working with because we weren't able to recruit as many people we had hoped. But this model is successful, again, because we have the strong engagement of our employers. We have some really great plumbing companies, as you can see right on here, and just happy to be able to work with them. Next slide. Another one of our innovative strategies is our Realign and our Restart project. And I frequently talk with employers about tapping into these underutilized talent pools like veterans, youth, and persons with disabilities, or even persons with felony convictions. Many of these individuals turn out to be some of our employers' best employees. They're hardworking, they're dependable, and they're dedicated. The Realign Restart project specifically targets individuals that are currently incarcerated. It also utilizes a braided funding strategy. And it's an initiative that's a collaboration with the Cobb County Sheriff's Department, of course, WorkSource Cobb, Construction Ready, and Chattahoochee Tech. We established an on-site education and skills training program that's coupled with GED instruction. And this is the very first of its kind in the Cobb County Jail. We targeted inmates who are 90 days from release, and we provide them with construction and welding training and industry recognized credentials, coupled with professional development, soft skills, and financial literacy workshops. Since our launch in August of 2022, we've had more than 240 inmates express interest. And since October, we've already graduated 27 individuals, with one being released and enrolled in the Mechanical Trades Institute, and another one has been released and he's enrolled in a WIOA training program. This particular initiative creates opportunities for strategic populations who really deserve a second chance, but it also builds talent pipelines who are, for employers who are struggling to find viable talent. Next slide. This is just a photo of one of our graduating classes, which includes one of our young men who received his GED through our on-site GED program. And just so you guys are aware, that more than 80% of the individuals that are currently incarcerated do not have a GED or a high school diploma. I hope you can see the correlation between being incarceration and education. We host on-site graduations ceremonies for each of our cohorts, and I'm proud to say that of the 8 individuals that were tested in our GED program, 1 passed all 4 exams, 2 of them passed 3 out of 4 exams, and the other 5 came within 3 to 5 points of passing all 4 exams. A program, again, I'm really proud of. Next slide. So COVID has tested all of us. It's tested our resilience, and it really has tested our ability to change. And we've learned today that it's even more critical for us to partner. And it's because of our collective impact that strengthens our ability to address the needs of our employers as well as our communities. It's time for all of us to continue to work on a long-term strategy that meets the talent needs of today and tomorrow, and utilize innovative approaches does just that. So thank you for your time, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share some of our innovative strategies and programs that we're extremely proud of. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And those pipeline programs are many things that we talk about in the Adult and Dislocated Worker Committee. So it's wonderful to see what you're doing. Really appreciate the effort and the work, and know it makes a difference for employers and for the state. So thank you for that very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to turn this over to Damon Weller, our Executive Director, Workforce Data and Information, Labor Exchange Systems presentation. So let me turn it over to Damon, please.
Thank you. My name is Damon Weller. I'm the Executive Director of the Data and Information Shop here at Office of Workforce Development, and it's my pleasure to speak with y'all today. I'm going to give some information about Labor Exchange System. I'm going to try not to be redundant from what you've already heard, but hopefully expound on a few things for you. So I'm going to go to the next slide. So the Labor Exchange System falls under WIOA. You've heard it multiple times, but we've got 4 titles under WIOA. Title 1, which you all well know, that's operated by our local workforce areas, and that the OWD has oversight of. Title 2, with Adult Ed, again, operated out of here with TCSG. Labor Exchange, Title 3, which is also operated out of TCSG, and then Title 4, Voc Rehab, operated by GVRA, Georgia Vocational Rehabilitation Agency. So those are the 4 components. As Director Grant was talking about, WorkSource Georgia, WorkSource Cobb, apologize. One of the key pieces is making sure that there's a pipeline. And so with the 4 titles, that's what it's intended to do. One of the things about WIOA with the 4 titles is that it's not supposed to be a duplication of services. That's the reason that you have Title 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that's why they split those things out. So when we talk about labor exchange, we talk about what is it that we do, but what is it that we do in conjunction with 3 other titles. And so that's what I'm hoping that I can help explain. Now, the next line is because this program goes by many names, and I wanted to make sure that you've heard them all, because you're going to hear them all at different times. So you have labor exchange, which is the Wagner-Peyser Act, which is also Title III, and also known as employment services. So you will hear that multiple times by multiple people, multiple ways. So I wanted to kind of lay that out for you, so that way you know those are all synonymous with one another. The services to the job seekers and employers is what the component of labor exchange is. Those services are things such as workshops, interviewing resume tips, job search skills and assistance, job order assistance, in-depth assessments for UI claimants, and a million other services. I could go on and on and on, because when we talk about employment services, it's a very nebulous concept. That's what USDOL intended it to be, because it's whatever is needed to be able to help an individual get back to work or to be able to upgrade their employment. Which then leads me to the next part. What is the requirements? You've heard about Title I's requirements. We even talked about some of the changes being made to some requirements. But Title III, you have one requirement, and that is that you are eligible to work. In fact, I have a very good friend that used to say, eligible to work and you have a heartbeat. So I guess that means zombies do not apply. But in essence, that's what it is. And when we talk about this, there's not anything that I'm missing here. We're talking about employed and unemployed. This is not geared towards just somebody that comes in unemployed. It's also for those that may be employed or what they call underemployed, right? So those that might be looking to upgrade their career. Again, speaking back to the 4 components, because we take somebody that is looking to be able to upgrade, and we at Title III, we can help them out with a resume and what have you, but what are we going to do? We're going to look to our partners with Title I to say, what kind of skills upgrades are we going to be able to offer this person to be able to move them forward? So one of the things that the Wagner Pizer staff do when somebody comes into a career center and they start talking to us about what it is that they need is we do an assessment at Title III. So we assess that customer to be able to determine what are the needs of that individual. What is it that we can do to be able to assist them with reemployment or upgrading their employment? As I mentioned, the key piece of that is partners, plain and simple. That's, again, the concept of WIOA. WIOA as an act, not as a Title I. Title I, II, III, and IV covered under that act. And so what we'll do is we'll make referrals to Title I, II, and IV as well. As Deputy Commissioner Kersler talked about, the Migrant and Seasonal Farm Worker Program. We have that we can refer to. The National Farm Worker Jobs Program is also an option. The Jobs for Veterans State Grant, JVSG, as she had mentioned, and then also Georgia Department of Labor to be able to assist with any kind of unemployment needs, and they also still operate the Trade Act for where that is right now. So with those different pieces, these are partners that we utilize to be able to help that person to better their career, to better themselves, to better whatever skills they need to be able to get reemployed or, again, to be able to gain further employment. The other part about this assessment is you're talking about an unemployment rate that's at a historical low, right? But what does that unemployment rate mean to us on the workforce side? It means that we've got more individuals that have more barriers to overcome to get to reemployment. 3%, whatever that is, it sounds great. But for us in the workforce, that's when you got to really get to work, right? Because now you've got these individuals that have more things that we have to overcome. So that's where this pipeline that we talk about, that's where this comes into play. So that's where Title III does that assessment, because usually Title III is your front door. That's where somebody comes in and says, I'm lost. I don't know what to do. I need help. And that's when we'll go into work, assess them, get them over to our Title I partners that we're happy we have partners here today with, and then we get them to the other units that can also assist. So that's one of the key components. The other part of labor exchange is the employer side. And we're very happy that we've had a great success in working with employers. We've got a great rapid response unit, one that's being perpetuated now. And it's all about making sure that we're working with employers to meet their needs, to be able to help fulfill their hiring requirements, and also make sure that their workforce is being increased. So whatever we can do to assist that, whether that be through some type of customized training, those are options that we have through Title I, business service opportunities. We have that through our Title III and rapid response, bonding options. A lot of people don't know about the federal bonding programs. Those are operated through Title III as well, that we can help bond individuals that might have bad credit or that have criminal history backgrounds, and to be able to assist them to get reemployed. Again, that 3%, what does it represent? Those individuals with more barriers. And then, of course, the federal tax credits that maybe not a lot of people know about. It's our opportunity to be able to educate the employers to make sure that everybody knows there are tax credits for hiring individuals that have certain characteristics. So there's things of that nature that we can also inform on. So Title III is that intro. It's that doorway to be able to assist individuals. So with that being said, that's kind of a high level overview, and I wanted to make sure that you saw the connections between all these partners, you know, again, with the Title I that you guys hear about regularly, but now Title III coming into play, being able to see how those things connect, how it is that we're all going to work together. One of the things that I'm most excited about is that we're going to have the opportunity to work directly with Title I and Title III to be able to help work through caseloads, if you will, individuals that they're working with, to be able to say, okay, hand them off. Let's do some reemployment services with them now, so that way you can move on to the next customer that's going to need some retraining, get the upgrading of that, be able to follow them through, and let's hand them off. That's part of the give and take as we go. Rob's Area 7, as they're training all those individuals, doing the great job they do with case management, that person comes 30 days out from training. What should you be doing? Getting a resume ready, right? Start identifying what careers is this person now qualified to do. What can we do to get that person in front of employer? So that's the partnership that you're going to see. The other part that I'm up here to talk about today is the reconfiguration of the group that I oversee, which is the Data and Information Group. So we've expanded our group, as Karen had mentioned earlier. We went from about 4 to about 11 to be able to assist in all the needs, because when we talk about the different programs, our group now will be doing the reporting requirements for the Title I at the state level, and also being able to pass that back to the 19 local workforce areas. We'll be doing the reporting for the Title III. We do the reporting for the JVSG program and the Migrant Seasonal Farm Worker program. We do the reporting for the JGG programs that come about. So we've got multiple things that we had to expand to be able to accommodate all those different pieces. We also have the apprenticeship program that Brandon's team does an awesome job with, but to be able to call it awesome, you got to be able to report it correctly. So we're getting that reported so that way we can show how awesome they're doing. So that's one of the key pieces. We're also responsible for making sure that we gather all the information, and then we're also responsible for doing some data analysis. You guys have been blessed to see Dana Brewer up here before, who falls within my team, and she does great analysis of the different data pieces. I know that Karen has worked with her many times to be able to show the different pieces of the workforce and the demographics of the workforce and the demographics of the unemployed, and so that would fall under my team as well with the analysis. And then we provide any of the other reporting needs that come about, again, local workforce areas as they need information, but also we assist to be able to do requests for information called RFIs that come in from some of the economic development areas across the state, to be able to get information about their specific county, their specific region, to be able to help grow businesses in their area as well. So that would also fall within my team. Next slide. And the last slide is just simply making up the team. So we have our fearless leader, Karen, here at the top with myself, and then we've got an individual that's over the systems, because we had to have somebody that's going to make sure that she's providing customer support with her team to make sure that we're able to assist all the needs of our local workforce areas, but now also all the job seekers that are calling in saying, hey, I need some help getting through your intake process, or the employers to be able to say, I need some assistance in putting in my job posting or being able to help recruit. And then that team will also be able to pass over to some of the different business units to be able to assist them. And then we have the data reporting team made up some great individuals that will be able to assist and be able to generate reports. So with that being said, I'm not going to take up too much more of your time. I just wanted to kind of give you guys an overview of the Title III program, how it integrates with some of the other titles under WIOA. So hopefully I've been able to do that. Are there any questions you have for me about the Title III or about the data information team?
I have a few questions.
Sure.
I
Lisa
know,
has a
Karen. I was like, oh my God, Lisa's on the board now. Okay, so with bonding, can you explain a little bit what exactly is like if I'm an employer and you're offering me a bonded candidate, what does that mean?
The bonded candidate basically means that, for lack of a better word, we're covering to make sure that if something were to happen with that individual on the work site, that basically that person is guaranteed, that there's not going to be any kind of for lack of a better word, retribution, that you're not going to have to, that we're covering the cost of whatever that person may cause malfeasance to or what have you. So the bonding is basically our certification that this individual has met certain requirements that we're willing to bond them to go on to that work site of the employer.
Liability insurance for a person.
There you go. Yeah, great.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of hoping it was.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I've been very successful with Indeed. I've been very happy. And we invite candidates. Like that's the success that we've had on Indeed is being able to invite candidates to apply for a job. So the questions I have are probably more specific to the new platform that you guys are developing.
Yes.
So can you explain like maybe some similarities? Because the two big issues, I think from the employer standpoint and employee, is the algorithms, right? So you're helping them with the resumes, but if they don't have the right terminology and as an employer don't match up, we're never going to find each other. So can you go into a little bit more on the algorithms? Sure. And then on the side of, is there going to be an opportunity for employers to invite some of these candidates directly to our job postings?
Yeah, no, those are great questions. Absolutely great questions, because the systems, I'll tell you this, the labor exchange systems have come a long way. I started with GDOL back in 2006, and even from 2006 up until now, you can just see all of the different pieces that have been able to expand. So the new system that we're moving to does allow employers to go in and post a job. Also, they will get a pool of qualified candidates that meet those. That way you can invite those individuals. If they're not applying already, you go ahead and invite those. Also, one of the things that happens within Title III is the part of the labor exchange is that staff will be screening job orders. So they look at a job order and they say, we don't see that there's a lot of hits on this job order. So as such, they will go in and start looking for qualified candidates that maybe, again, haven't applied and be able to refer them to that job order. So that's part of what the Business Services Group does. That's part of what our Title III staff do in the career centers. And then as far as the AI goes, the AI has come an extremely long way. And yes, you are correct. They do have algorithms that are in place that are looking for key pieces to be able to then make the automatic connection where the individual can set up their own job search features and be able to say, look for jobs that match this. Employers can do the same. Look for, set up searches that look for individuals that match these qualifications to be able to make that. So the system we're going to with Geographic Solutions is a very robust system with some extremely complex AI that does make those connections very similar to the Monsters and the Indeeds and what have you. So it does provide that extreme labor exchange.
And David, correct me if I'm wrong, but the system that we're implementing, it will scrape jobs, right, from Indeed or Monster or whatever. So
that's correct.
Should you post over there, it will likely show up over here.
Another question.
Always a step ahead, but no, you're exactly right. So we have the job postings that are directly posted into the site, but at the same time, the site is going out every day and it's scraping jobs from other locations and bringing them in. They call it spidering. So you spider those jobs and you spider them all into one location to try to make it easier for an individual so they don't say, well, I went to the WorkSource Georgia site today, then I went over to Monster, then I went over to Indeed, then I went over to Hotjob. I mean, it allows them to be able to say, okay, I feel comfortable coming into one location and feeling as though I did my due diligence today on work searching in one location. So that spidering, that scraping is definitely a feature, and I couldn't even tell you the amounts because it's somewhere in the high thousands, somewhere that every day they're scraping those jobs, bringing them in. The other reason why I say every day is because that's a key component. Because if you as an employer are putting something in Indeed, and then tomorrow you fill it and it closes, the last thing you want is over in our system that people are still applying to a job that's already been closed. So the reason why I say every day and make that a point of emphasis is because it's allowing that system to go in and say, oh, that job's closed, close it in the spidered job that we brought in, since it wasn't posted directly within our site. So hopefully that provides you a little bit of insight on that as well.
And David, correct me if I'm wrong, you would know this better than I do, but my understanding is that a lot of our business services staff that we're bringing over are really highly trained in resume development and that sort of thing. So to ensure that they're helping individuals craft resumes that are going to get them jobs or going to lead them to employers or employers to them, right, within a system. So, and that'll be something that we'll continue to expand in terms of training with the field staff as we kind of implement all of this.
Yeah.
I think the employers, honestly, employers are the ones who need the training. You know, I'll just say, because a lot of times we're putting stuff in there that's really not, you know, we're missing the boat,
Right.
I think, a lot of times.
No, and I think that's a great point. One of the nice things about the system is that it does have a lot of tutorial videos that are already embedded in the system that will help employers to be able to post jobs. But as far as how to post more efficiently, those are things that, again, Title III would handle through our different training and development groups that will be able to put together videos to be able to say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Employer, here's a good way to put a job order in, especially with the emphasis on good jobs right now, right, Brandon? With the Teagles that came out about where USDOL is talking about good jobs. Well, we want to make sure that employers are being able to put in those jobs that are going to be beneficial to the job seeker and to the employer, because you're not looking to just spend your HR's time just sitting there and putting in orders. You want them to put in orders that are going to attract individuals to be able to get that job filled. So that's something that, again, that within Title III, our group would be able to do those videos to be able to show how to put in a quality job posting that will then lead to an eventual hire or placement.
That's awesome.
How is the site marketed and to whom?
I'm going to turn that one over to Deputy Commissioner.
Well, actually, that's something that we're about to embark on is we're going to put out an RFP to get some assistance with branding and kind of a comprehensive marketing plan to roll this out. Because as I said, you know, our goal is to kind of be the go-to resource, but until we make people aware of who we are and what we have to offer, you know, it's not going to happen. So that's going to be an ongoing project, and we'll report out on that, you know, as we move forward.
You also have the captive audience of the people who are registered through programs on that site, because that site is also our case management tool for both Title I and Title III.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Are we only, is that our only target, or is
It's
it?
not the only,
Okay.
anyone can use the resource, but that's a benefit to employers is that you do kind of have that captive audience as well.
Yeah, and we do have the benefit of kind of the built-in lift of our association with the local workforce areas, you know, the work that they do, that recognition, the colleges, ideally, you know, we'll get this in all of the career centers in all of the colleges, and that they'll be utilizing it and so forth. So, you know, so we have some platforms, we have some opportunities to give ourselves a little bit of lift on the marketing, but even there, we know we have a lot to do.
And I think with the captive audience as well, one of the key pieces is that under unemployment insurance, they actually are required to register within Title III when they get their first payment. Why? Because you're trying to now get them reemployed quicker, so that way they're not drawing upon that unemployment insurance trust fund. So there is a requirement for every individual that receives a payment, barring anybody that's part of a union or that's going back to the employer as a recall. Those individuals are required to register within the Title III Wagner Pfizer system to be able to look for work, and then they have to report those work searches back to the unemployment insurance to show that piece. So you also have that captive audience of everybody, and that's, to me as a taxpayer, that's a great thing, because now what you're doing is you're trying to say, get these individuals back to work, in which they want to get back to work. You just sometimes have to help guide them through, again, the Title III system to be able to do that as well.
So there is a problem with that, because I will just tell you that a large percentage of people don't show up for their interviews.
Right.
Large percentage. You talk to any employer, they're going to tell you the same thing, that they set up 10 interviews for the day, you're lucky if 5 show up.
Right.
So I think there should be a way for employers on the portal to let you know this potential
Yes.
candidate did not show up.
And there is, and that's going to be a key piece. Actually, there is right now in the system that's currently being used within Employ Georgia, but a lot of employers, as you mentioned, just don't know that. And so there is an ability to be able to indicate that an individual did not show up, or they came in and they were unprepared, or whatever the case may be, because then we're able to take that, report it back to the unemployment insurance group to be able to say, okay, here's this. And then they take care of any kind of adjudication on their side about talking with the job seeker, getting their side, whatever the cases are. But that's a great point, and it is something that is built into the systems as well.
Yeah, real quick to follow up on a couple of things. As you migrate from Employ Georgia to Geographic Solutions, I don't want to put you on the spot, but your ideal timeline for that to occur, when, having worked with Employ Georgia, when do you think those will be kind of meshed into a single?
Well, if we work Damon and his team about 80 hours a week.
That's probably.
Yeah.
I mean, just wondering.
No, I mean, our statement of work with Geographic Solutions has June 30th as our target date,
Okay.
And granted, that may be ambitious, but, we would like to, kind of keep the pressure on them to hit that deadline. So yeah.
I mean, you'll be proud to know that Georgia has one of the largest loads, if you will, of individuals across the nation. I mean, when we start looking at how many Wagner Pizer customers are served, our Title III employment services customers are served, Georgia ranks somewhere in the top 10 on a regular basis. The reason I say that is because that also means we're looking at somewhere close to, I think right now we're somewhere around 30, 40 million service records we have to migrate. It also means that we have somewhere close to 500,000 active records we have to migrate. And then when you start talking historical to try to be able to help build the system out, you're talking somewhere close to 2 million records that we're bringing in. So, those are stark contrast to some of the numbers with Title I, where you have the 20,000 or what have you. It's because, again, that requirement of no requirement because every person can just sign up to be able to receive those employment services. So we've got a very large number. As Karen mentioned, we're trying our hardest to get that done by June. And that's our hope at this point, to be able to get that rolled out, and hopefully by the new program year, be able to establish ourselves in the new system.
Okay, and follow-up question too, is you're bringing on, in addition to Wagner Pizer, the JVSG folks, thinking about the new system and making sure the AI and your folks out in the field, so in this case, your DevOps and your leavers are actually doing a good job of making sure those resumes can match what an AI system is, trying to call out for a specific job, so that your veterans can get decent jobs with the skills that they have that may not be the same terminology.
Yes, ma'am. I mean,
y'all using that group as consultants, or is that, I just want to make sure that that's a piece of the new system as it rolls out, being very veteran focused.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would just say that, JJ and Jean have been at the table,
Okay.
As we've, been engaged in discussions and demos with Geo and so forth. So anything else you'd like to add to that?
No, I mean, other than the fact that, we did bring individuals over that have that experience as a DevOps and an Elver that have come over, but we're not resting on those laurels. We're going back and doing some retraining with individuals to be able to make sure that they've been brought up to speed on what the requirements are, how to be able to, again, do great resumes to be able to help individuals meet that AI needs within the systems. So those are things that we're working on as well, to be able to make sure that we're not just saying, well, they came over with experience and just leave it as is, but rather they came over with experience, and now let's see if we can help build on that experience to make sure that we're continuing quality services as well.
Are we
I
also
just
work?
want to say, if you need our help, let us know.
Oh, yeah.
Thank
you. I appreciate that.
Are we also targeting people re-entering the workforce? So think about all the women that they get to a certain point, they've been out of work for 10, 15 years while their kids were growing up, and now they're getting ready to re-enter the workforce. Is that a targeted market?
So let me just say this, around recruitment and outreach, right? As we brought Wagner Pizer over, JVSG over, and looking at, okay, how can we better integrate with the local workforce areas and what their needs are? And in thinking about, employer needs, right? And like where we're at and where we need to be 5 years down the road, right? We know, so it's about talent pipeline development. It's about engaging those folks who aren't currently in the labor force. So figuring that out and figuring out how to bring all these resources to bear on those different populations to affect an impact on this issue is something that we're trying to wrap our heads around from a kind of a holistic approach. It's like, we got a lot of resources here, right? If we can do a better job of integrating all of that, you know, then I think then we can do more focused activity for specific populations, you know. And like, I think the Quest grant is a great example of an opportunity that presents. And Brandon, I don't know if you want to speak to the summit at all.
Well, yes.
Or any of the
A
activities.
component of the Quest grant, like I said, is to engage individuals that have been dropped out of the workforce because of the pandemic. Mothers or parents is a decent amount of that.
Yeah, probably.
It will continue to be. So we'll have this grant for at least 2 years, hopefully 3. But with that being said, during those 3 years, our job is, well, our portion at the state level is to help engage various other stakeholders beyond our workforce system to get those individuals into services and then into the workforce, whatever that may be. So it may be training them up for jobs in manufacturing. It may be, you know, just job placement, right? Somebody that needs an updated resume, you know, just needs to find their way. One thing that we found is people looking to apply for jobs in 2023 is very different than the way they applied for jobs in 2019. And so that's leading to a huge gap when it comes to people. I mean, I know Dr. Good with her team, I'm sure they work with, or, you know, at the local level, people that are submitting 10, 20 different resume or applications and not getting anything back because of the algorithms that you were talking about. And so that's from a holistic, to Karen's point, from a holistic level standpoint, we're trying to figure out ways that we can reach out to these groups. We have partnerships with Dr. Good's team. We'll have you know, roundtables to connect the adult education components locally to our Title I components. We're actually working on something called the Untapped Workforce Initiative. That's going to prepare our business services folks throughout the state who are working with employers with resources to help employers get out of their own way and hire successfully.
No offense.
No
It's true. It's true. It's all good.
But I mean, I know that there's a lot of, like you, employers that are ahead of the curve, but those that are really looking for talent, you know, when it comes to how to successfully hire and retain, that's the big part. Individuals with barriers, and that could be reentry of again, parents, returning citizens, ex-offenders, veterans, you name it. And so that will practitioner training, and then also a summit that will convene employer leaders as well as our workforce stakeholders to figure out ways to best engage this workforce, to get on the same page, as well as resources in over the course of those 3 years, resources and trainings that will be disseminated digitally and virtually as well.
I was going to say that, you know, just I think what we're still seeing is that so many of the job openings are the entry level, and they're just large numbers of entry level across many industries. So anything that you can do that you're pulling the jobs or scraping jobs just kind of shows what jobs are available. And I know I talked to Brendan a lot about the entry level being, I think that hits on some of the grants and some of the other programs, but that's still one of the greatest needs I think we're seeing.
Sure. And I might even go one step further and say that's one thing that we're hoping that you as the board will help us to identify what kind of targets should we be looking at. The one thing that I know the local workforce leaders would tell you is that USDOL has a plethora of data that they ask us to collect from individuals, a lot of data. So we get information such as single and pregnant parenting individuals. We get individuals that have aged out of foster care system and what have you. So we have to collect that information as a requirement of the grants. So it gives us the ability to mine that data a little bit to say, okay, well, let's look at the performance of a specific group and whether or not we need to hone in on that. So again, I think we welcome that from the board as well, to be able to help us to be able to say, hey, have you thought about this population and what does it look like in our current workforce, and what can we do to be able to help that population to rise up further as well in the workforce?
And to piggyback on that, I just want to say, we've been really fortunate. I think we're moving in a direction of being able to better engage our board members in their assistance. And Kelly, I'm sitting here thinking, oh, there's a great opportunity for you upcoming, with the summit and so forth.
Literally the announcement it was.
Yeah, you've got great expertise that you can lend to that. We've been working with Emily Davidson with Elevance on implementing an apprenticeship program in partnership with Kia. It's still in development, but we're making good headway for foster youth who are aging out of that system. Dr. Good, I just have to apologize, and also to Chris Wells. As we're sitting here talking about, well, we have 3 of the titles under WIOA, and we're not giving you a platform to report out on adult ed. And so my apologies. That's something I think that we just need to start including on a regular basis. And also for our partners at VR, they're not sitting here at TCSG, but they are WIOA core partners. So we'll incorporate that more. But we are working with Adult Ed on the DWG grant. And certainly we've been increasing our partnerships with Adult Ed over the last couple of years, in terms of clarifying our policies, trying to provide some financial support and so forth. And then again, to Colonel Ross, our engagement on the Unite Us platform and so forth. So, so for those of you who have not yet seen an opportunity as a board member to directly engage, just hang on. And we appreciate the support, and this is kind of helping us move forward. And so if you have thoughts and ideas, we really want to hear them, because getting people back into the workforce and increasing this participation, that's a big lift, and we, by no stretch of the imagination, have it figured out.
Any digital questions? Okay. All right, Madam Chairwoman, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. Just a special thanks and also a shout out to Dana Brewer, who's joined our committee several times. I think the data tells a story and we'd love to see it. So it kind of helps to bring light to what's going on now. She provides some current updates and we usually share it at the board. So greatly appreciate all the work, and just what you presented today is very exciting to see and encouraging. This is wonderful work all of you are doing. I believe we've covered all the announcements, but let me just check with Nia.
Yes, we did.
All right, thank you. So special thanks to everyone. I know this is 2 hours out of your day. Greatly appreciate. We had a lot of action items, a lot of items approved. Thank you for your time. The meeting is adjourned.